For many families, an annual highlight of the Seder is opening the door for Elijah the prophet. Growing up, we children would scramble and fight to be either the one who opened the door or to be the one who was going to carefully watch our father to make sure he didn't surreptitiously push the table at the critical moment. Despite that heavy surveillance, each year, the table shook and a little wine spilled as we opened the door, sparking excited glee in the younger children, mirrored by the playful mirth in the faces of the adults watching them. My father would put an exaggerated look of innocence on his face. To this day, he has never budged from his position. It was Elijah himself who certainly came to our Seder every year, tasting our sweet, low-alcohol offering as he rushed by. Perhaps the sip he took from each Seder on his route made him a bit tipsy, a little bit clumsy by the time he got to our table. It was not until I was much older that I was amazed to find out that the popular tradition of Elijah visiting every single Seder actually has no basis in our classical sources at all. The earliest source directly addressing this matter is cited by the 15th century sage Rabbi Zelikman Binga, a highly influential and authoritative chronicler of Ashkenazi Jewish practices and customs. Rabbi Binga reports that the practice of pouring a cup and calling it the cup of Elijah is related to the hope that Elijah will come to herald the coming of the Messiah. The hope that Elijah will come, not the fact that he's there. 500 years later, the Mishnah Berurah, a 20th century code of Jewish law and practice, explains that pouring the cup of Elijah at the Seder is a symbol of our belief that, and I quote, "Just as God redeemed us from Egypt, God will again redeem us and send Elijah to announce it." Similarly, Rabbi Moses Isserles, known as Ramah, the 16th century sage whose writings are a foundation of European Jewish practice, explains that the custom of opening our doors for Elijah is a symbolic act of faith, concretizing our belief that the redemption, held by tradition to be heralded by Elijah, is imminent. He, too, stops short of saying that Elijah himself actually makes an appearance. These foundational sources are teaching us about the power of anticipation, about the power of hope. As we anticipate, as we hope for wonderful things in our futures, just thinking about them brightens and animates our lives in the present as well. For hundreds of years, Jews brought joy to their Passover Seder, not by actually experiencing the presence of Elijah, but by eagerly awaiting his future appearance. Even as they celebrated the redemption from Egypt, they brought hope to their own lives by looking ahead to the redemption to come. Indeed, as much as Passover is about celebrating what already has been, it is also about, it is perhaps more so about, anticipating greater things to come. It's in this spirit that the second day of Passover is also the first day of the Omer, our annual count towards the festival of Shavuot, the celebration of revelation at Sinai. Even just after the fantastic experience of the Exodus, the focus immediately shifts by the very next day to the next milestone, the next stop on the journey. The late Lord Rabbi Jonathan Sacks was careful to note that the Jewish tradition of anticipating a brighter future is not about optimism, but rather about hope. Optimism is the belief that the world is getting better. Hope is the belief that we can make the world better. The Exodus from Egypt is the bedrock of Jewish faith, and in Sacks's words, faith means seeing the world exactly as it is, and yet not giving up the belief that it could be otherwise, if we are ready to act with others to make it so. Faith is realism that has been touched by hope, and hope has the power to transform the world. Barely a few months after their FDA approvals, over 1/4 of Americans have received at least one dose of a COVID-19 vaccine. Nearly half of all senior citizens are fully vaccinated. For so many who spent the past year focused almost exclusively on safety and survival, trapped in their homes for safety like the Israelites in Egypt, this is now a time to begin again cultivating that sense of hope, that sense of anticipation. It's time to open our doors and to look outside. Wishing you and your loved ones a Passover of excitement and of joy, one in which your anticipation of the future brightens your lives and those of your loved ones. Chag Sameach.